Well, this has got interesting, hasn't it? CEX have been hitting those Control-C and V buttons pretty hard, but putting aside their attempts to toe the line, I suppose let's move on to debunking their claims even further, shall we? However, before I go any further, I want to clarify something. I have actually had a CEX employee get in touch with me. I won't mention his name, just in case, but let me break down what he had to say. Essentially, there are two types of CEX store, a corporate store and a franchise store. Now, at one point, both of these stores would actually accept something being unboxed, and then the disc would be sent off to get another cover reprinted, so it could be sent back to the store and then put on the shelves next to all the other stock. Corporate stores have apparently stopped this practice so that they don't take unboxed games anymore, but some franchises might. On the other hand, though, the company is still offering unboxed reprints for lost or stolen cases if something happens in store. So if that's true, then the issue technically should naturally decrease, but that still means that they need to move the stock of reprinted cases that already exist. Now, obviously, I don't want to make the lives of those working behind the counters difficult, because it's not their fault, and I do appreciate that they'll be the ones that get the grief from a customer trying to trade in something that's in too rough a shape to take, or if the cases get stolen, etc. So I just wanted to clarify that I'm taking aim specifically at the higher-ups in both sets of stores that have decided to implement illegal practices to combat these issues, and then leave the troops on the front line to deal with the flak. With that being said, on with the investigation. Firstly, I want to deal with the situation of whether this is just in-store or whether it's also online as well. Now, I got sent this on Twitter. This is a response from CEX to a customer claiming that reprinted cases are kept for sale only in store so that the customers can view them before purchasing. Not that that makes it okay, of course, but also we know that's not true, as I've also had people contacting me saying that they've given up trying to buy online from them because they got fed up of being sent fake cases. But even a quick search on social media and you'll find frustrated customers having the same issue. But even so, they continue to use this line. This one was even in response to someone posting my video on their Facebook page. So I know they've seen me and I know they're ignoring me. I've also been sent this recently. Now what this is a shoddy inkjet printed box for Panzer Dragoon Saga. The reason why this is important is because this is a very rare game and commands a price of £300 from CEX. And that's exactly what Retro Sega World paid for it, so that he would receive a copy of the game which was described as being boxed. Now I have to stress that I don't have any evidence at this point that this is CEX that's been printing these outer cardboard boxes, but the reason I want to highlight it is because firstly it was an online purchase, and then secondly because CEX have specifically stated that it was an isolated incident. So if there are any other examples of cardboard boxes being reproduced, or any other incident in which CEX advertises something as having a different price, whether it's boxed or unboxed, I'd like to hear about it, especially if it's from an online order, as I'd like to hold them to their word that this is indeed an isolated incident and not a new practice that we also have to follow. Also, to move things along in getting some clout behind stopping this practice altogether, rather than simply tweeting intellectual property holders like Nintendo, because we all know from a previous video that Nintendo is beyond useless when it comes to social media management, which, by the way, I do also have a follow-up video for, but this one's more pressing. I've now sent all of the evidence directly to Nintendo's PR department and also their legal department in the US, as well as other IP holders as well, so we'll see what comes of that. Now, I understand when people would say, why would Nintendo or anybody else bother with CEX selling fake retro boxes, except for the fact that they're not just selling retro games, they're also selling new ones too, like this copy of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch, or this copy of Persona 5 on the PS4. These are new games demanding new game prices, and their printing of fake covers is at the detriment of other businesses and the rights holders themselves, which is important when it comes to looking at some of the legal aspects later in this video. I've also been in touch with Peggy, as CEX are not just in breach of Peggy's trademark, but they're also doctoring artwork to have Peggy ratings that either weren't there originally or are just completely wrong. Now this next part is quite important because I've been throwing around terms like copyright and trademark infringement, and if I'm going to be responsible in my investigation, I should address CEX with exactly what they're in breach of. People have even pointed out in the comments that it's a bit bold to outright claim what they're doing is illegal or possibly even criminal, but seeing as this is in the course of a business, it is potentially a criminal issue, not just a civil issue. So, let's dive in, shall we? Trademark Act 1994, updated the 1st of October 2017. Point 1.1. Unauthorised use of a trademark. A person commits an offence who, with a view to gain for himself or another, or with intent to cause loss to another, and without the consent of the proprietor, A. applies to goods of their packaging a sign identical to or likely to be mistaken for a registered trademark. Now obviously the trademarks in relation to the game company logos are being applied to the appropriate products, but the point being you don't have the permission of the trademark holders, and you certainly don't have the right to start adding your own Peggy logos to artwork either, but this one is more interesting. 2. A person commits an offence who, with a view to gain for himself or another, or with the intent to cause loss to another and without the consent of the proprietor, A. applies a sign identical to or likely to be mistaken for a registered trademark to material intended to be used, 1. for labelling or packaging of goods. So for example, adding a Peggy logo to an artwork which isn't meant to have it, or makes an article specifically designed or adapted for making copies of a sign identical to or likely to be mistaken for a trademark. So the modification of a packaging to fit the brand that they're trying to emulate, like adding Peggy logos or mashing up artwork from different regions. Moving on. 2. Copyright Designs and Patent Act 1988, so more specifically the game artworks and rather than just logos. Now obviously you can claim that they're not actually selling these, they're actually selling the games and the artwork is just inconsequential, but I'd refer you to section D that states, it is an offence if D, in the course of a business, 1. 4. distributes articles of infringement. So whether you want to argue semantics or whether you're selling the product, you're definitely distributing copyright infringing materials, even if you claim that you're not directly selling them, which arguably you are anyway. E. Distributes otherwise than in the course of a business to such an extent as to affect prejudicially the owner of the copyrights, like printing new game covers that are currently being produced by the rights holders, whether it's in the course of a business or not. Registered Design Acts 1949. A person commits an offence if A. in the course of a business the person intentionally copies a registered design so as to make a product 1. exactly to that design, or 2. with features that differ only in immaterial details to that design. B. the person does so 1. knowing or having reason to believe that the design is a registered design, and 2. without the consent of the registered proprietor of that design. Do you have any permission from anyone? I mean, I called Nintendo to find out, but being the customer service department rather than the legal department, they weren't able to give me a definitive answer, but seemed shocked when I told them what was happening and hoped it was above board.
Do you know what the retailer's name is?
Sure, it's CEX, they're nationwide stores.
CEX.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And do you know where the location of this specific one is?
It's not a specific one, it's actually a nationwide practice that they've initiated, so they are producing... all of the stores, yeah. So this is, it's not just Nintendo, it is actually across the board, all game companies and DVDs and things, but I wanted to check Nintendo's copyright policy.
I understand. I would hope, and I can only speculate, they are a big company, I would hope it is above board and everything. But I definitely have the information here, so I will ask my superior or stuff like this.
Fortunately, Nintendo do publish their policy on copyright and trademark, particularly in regards to artwork and game packaging, and also in regards to giving permission. They state, because we receive thousands of such requests, our policy is to decline use of our trademarks and copyrights. Therefore, you don't have the rights, and I'm now waiting on final confirmation of that from their legal department in the US. But is one company enough, or do I have to track down the policies of every game company and every movie company from which you're reprinting covers? But this is just UK law. It's ignoring the fact that CEX are doing this in other countries too. CEX just keep repeating the same line that we only print covers that have been damaged, but please be assured that all discs inside are authentic, which none of us are disputing, and our printing of covers is not a copyright infringement as verified with trading standards. But when I ask them to provide evidence of this verification or any evidence of permission from any copyright or trademark holders, they just ignore it. When I point them to the relevant legal information, they ignore it. Either that or they completely dodge me and respond to someone else on the thread. I appreciate that their social media manager or their customer services aren't the legal department, but when I ask for contact details for the legal department, they ignore that too. I could only find one phone number, and when you call it, you get this.
Thank you for contacting CEX. To speak with our customer care team, please contact us via our website support form at www.webuy.com/support, or for an urgent response, please get in touch through our Facebook or Twitter pages by searching for CEX. Please quote an order number if you have one.
Sake. I'm not even going to bother going into the amount of fake games that make their way into the stores. Yes, you need to train your staff better to spot these, but with the nature of your business, some fakes are going to slip through, and when I point out fakes to staff, they're always appreciative of the knowledge about how to spot the fake the next time. But that's just a customer services issue. This printing of covers is a legal issue. Now, CEX have moved slightly away from their default trading standards line, and have started saying, considering the type of business we are into, it is not a copyright infringement as verified with trading standards. But again, they refuse to send me any proof of this supposed verification. So in their inability to respond, I dug out trading standards line on this matter myself. Now, different councils have slightly different rules, but take a look at this from Southwark Council as an example. Now, just take your pick. CEX is in violation of all of these. Yes, you can say that they're recreations of the original works and the original media that comes with them is authentic, but some of them aren't. They've been specifically designed to fit other cases or have recognisable ratings regardless of whether those ratings are correct or not, and also in breach of those rating companies' trademarks, which makes no sense at all. But you see, there is a simple solution to this, CEX. Get rid of your illegally reprinted cases altogether and just make generic ones. If anything, it's easier than what you're already doing at the moment, as A, you're not having to track down artwork, B, you're not having to doctor it so that it has the correct ratings, or even Photoshop it to fit different sized cases. Well, I say that, it'll at least fix things from a consumer point of view anyway. If the copyright and trademark holders want to hold you account for years of breach of their intellectual property, then that's the price to pay. But your customers don't deserve this rubbish, and your staff definitely don't deserve the indignity of having to deal with the complaints when it's not their fault. What's worse is that you acknowledged this feedback 6 months ago. You've created a whole host of problems for yourselves, not just with illegal practices, but with misguided denial and flat-out lies. Now, you've told me that you'll get back to me via email, and you've even told me that you'll chase the team up to get back to me, but it's taking forever. I know you see what the reaction from the community has been, and I'm waiting for answers. But until next time, guys, and till next time, CEX, I'll see you later.